I love watching storytime videos. I think they're such a fun way to get to know a little bit more about somebody. So I'm gonna be doing a series of some stories, sharing some things on my channel that I don't normally talk about, but I think will be really fun. So if you like these kind of videos, do let me know down below. Subscribe if you're not already, and give this video a like. Let me know what other kind of stories you might like to hear. Chris and I met in 2006, and we were on a contract together. I have been a professional singer for most of my life, and he a professional dancer for most of his. And we both happened to be on a performance contract together in a cast of, I think, probably 16 or 20 people. And I remember I had gotten to rehearsals late. I was about 3 days late because I was on another contract. And when I came in, I was being thrown into the numbers that they had already rehearsed and blocked. And the first thing that even made me notice Chris was there was like a couple seconds of downtime, and he did this and this without even speaking, and he did it like directly to me, and it cracked me up. I don't know, it was not even that funny, but it was hilarious to me in that moment. And so from then we kind of had like these stupid little jokes here and there, but we never really had much in common. I was American, he was Polish. There was Polish people in the cast that he always hung out with. They always spoke in Polish, and every once in a while, if we were interacting in a number, we would, you know, do our dance or, you know, do the choreography together. But that was it. As things go, if you don't know, performers, the majority of performers like to stay up late, drink a lot of alcohol, party like crazy when they're not dancing. And so that's part of the lifestyle that goes along with being a performer. That was never really me, but of course you want to not be the outcast of the cast. And so when everybody's starting to get to know each other and everybody wants to go out, you go out too. And so on that first outing as a cast, we went to some random club, and some drama was happening with some girl, and I just went over because she was crying. I was like, "Are you okay?" And he told me, this was the way to my heart apparently, he told me, "What do you know about anything? You're just a stupid American." And I was like, "What? Okay, not talking to you again. What a jerk." Okay, somebody I'm not gonna be friends with, somebody I'm not really gonna, you know, have a heart-to-heart with the entire contract, and that was that. Probably like the next weekend, everybody again went out to a club, went dancing. I danced with Chris like on the dance floor for the first time, and there's a big difference between dancing choreographed movement and dancing choreographed dance than actually dancing with somebody on a dance floor. There's just a difference. If you dance professionally, you know what I'm talking about. So that was the first time that I had danced with Chris on a dance floor, and I had like the best time. We had such fun together, and there was an electricity between us, and it was just so much fun. And at the end of that night, we kissed. And then the next morning, I was like, that was the worst decision I could have possibly made. I never, ever wanted to get involved with anybody who I was in a cast with, because just think about it. You kiss somebody, and then you have to either be with them as things progress, or you have to spend the next 6 months to a year, depending how long your contract is, being awkward with this person. And that's exactly what I didn't want. I did not want to be awkward. And before this contract actually had started, I had made a promise to myself, made a promise to God, that I wasn't gonna be dating anybody. I just didn't want to deal with it. I was never really boy crazy, but I had been in a pretty long relationship before this. I had been praying that God would bring the perfect husband into my life. I wasn't like desperate, like I need to get married at this second, because I was 26. I really wanted to marry a Christian guy. I really wanted to have this next relationship be meaningful and possibly lead to marriage. So I was not at all looking for a relationship. And Chris, I love you if you're watching this, but you were not at all what I was looking for. Everything I thought that I wanted someone who didn't smoke, I wanted someone who didn't drink, I wanted somebody who was a Christian. You were none of those things. You smoked like a chain smoker. He drank like a fish in vodka water bowl. He most certainly did not believe in God at that time. But life works in very interesting and funny ways. Now, after that kiss, it was super awkward. As a group of friends in the cast, we all went to sushi the next day, and I just completely ignored him. I was like, I don't want this to be an awkward contract, so let me just make this awkward now. I don't want him to be my boyfriend, and that was just a mistake of a kiss last night. Super awkward. Then I feel like he got angry at me because I was shutting him out. And then half the cast had to fly to Germany, and the rest of us were gonna be coming to Germany to meet them. Germany is where the ship was being built that the contract would be on. However, when the ship is being built, it's like a bunch of containers, like shipping containers almost, and they're putting it together like block by block. So in the day, we would rehearse in the theater. Sometimes the theater didn't even have a roof on yet, and it was freezing, and we would rehearse in the theater. And then at night, we were in the middle of nowhere in Germany, in a shipyard. So there's basically open fields, maybe like a road to get to the shipyard, and then a seaman center. A seaman center sounds funny, but it's just a center where the sea people, seamen, can come and either use computers. This was before iPhones. This was before like everybody had, I think I had a laptop at this time, but that was it. But there was 4 computers like for everybody who was either building the ship or going to be working on the ship, and everybody chain smoked in there. I think they had beer and wine and a pool table, and that was it. So your choices were to go inside that smoky hellhole or be outside in the nature, but it was winter, so it was really cold. So at this time, we had just kind of completely separated and not talked to each other, just ignored each other. But as we began to rehearse again together in Germany, we kind of again started joking about little things here and there and started getting into deeper conversations. So at night when we were finished rehearsing, we started going on these really long walks in the country where we would talk about all sorts of things. And even though his English was not great, he was like the best person I've ever talked to, because I think because of that little bit of humility of the English not being great, he was able to just be like, tell me what he was thinking, and if I didn't really understand, I would be like, okay, what do you mean by that? Or why do you think that? Or tell me more about this. And like, we just really had amazing conversations. A lot of them stemmed from the topic of God and kind of what he believed at the time, what I believed, and we just started talking more and more and more about like super deep things. And that's something that's always, been a huge deal to me. I hate like small talk or just like that nervous, like, what are we gonna talk about? I'm naturally an introvert, and I just really enjoy, if I'm gonna talk, I wanna talk about real things. Otherwise, I'm kind of just quiet. So this was something that I found really interesting. And even at that moment, I did not think I would marry this guy. I did not think I would date this guy, but something in my heart was really connected to him. And I really felt like, man, this guy has some hurt in his life. He is possibly a little bit lost at this stage in his life. And I just had a real heart to pray for him with no like foreseeable future in mind. I don't know. I just feel like at that time I felt that, oh, maybe God brought this guy into my life at this time because he needs some prayer for some things. Not that I'm like the corrector or the prayer of every answered prayer. That was all that I saw this as. And as we talked more and more, I just began to really kind of fall in love with who he was deep down inside, under all the layers of pretense. There was this really genuine heart, and I just found that to be like a really treasured thing that was buried quite deep. So we began dating, and I again was a little bit apprehensive because I didn't want to be in a relationship with another performer. Never thought I would marry a performer, never thought that I would date somebody within a cast on a contract. Totally never what I wanted to do. We were in all these amazing places in Europe, charming little towns. We would go and we would get coffee and we would just stare into each other's eyes like I'd never stared into anybody's eyes before, and talk about real things that mattered, and like talk about hypothetical things that really mattered in my mind, and in his. And I just really fell in love with this person, and it suddenly didn't matter all those things that I really didn't want in a person. I just realized that those can change, and not that I forced them to change, but what really matters when you find that person, or how did I know that he was the one, is if you have a real connection in the heart with that person. For me, that was so important and so apparent that it was there. And so we dated probably for like a year and a half. We went through that whole contract together, seeing amazing places, getting to do all kinds of fun things together, going to the beach, going on hikes, going on just so many fun trips around the whole world. We had a great time. And by that point, we had been dating for a year and a half, and we both knew that we wanted to get married. And it was just a matter of the logistics, because he's from Poland, I was from the US, and so trying to figure out how that would work. And we decided that he would move to the US. It was always a dream of his to live in the US, and that we just needed to get the paperwork going so he could live here legally. So what we did was we hired a lawyer, we began getting documents prepared. They need a lot of stuff to make sure that you are really truly in love, one, and two, that you're really truly going to be, you know, living in the US under the arrangement that you've told the US government. It's no lie, it's super serious, and you have a lot of paperwork to do. So we got a lawyer to help us, and I would highly recommend getting a lawyer to help you if this is a situation that you're in. And so we walked off the ship in Florida, and this was in the end of 2007. He had met my parents once before on the ship, and I'm not really sure if they even liked him, I don't really know. But then we came home to see my parents for a little bit, and then we moved to Las Vegas, and that is where we kind of started our life together. And the move was super easy because I had a car and I had like 2 suitcases of stuff, and same with him. We had nothing, so it was kind of the best way to move. We got to Las Vegas. He had not proposed at this point, and we knew, we had talked about it a million times, the proposal wasn't going to be a surprise. We decided we would do something fun, and what he planned was that we would fly over the Las Vegas Strip, and he would ask me to marry him then. But I believe we picked out the ring together, and like we just did everything together. There were really no surprises, and I was totally fine with that. And of course I said yes.
What? Wait, because I didn't see, it's so small. What is it? So, this is the first night actually when we are engaged, and we're going to get married now. So yeah, so that's it. I love you.
I love you. Okay, thanks.
Okay.
And then directly after that, we drove downtown Las Vegas and we got our marriage license. And funny story, we have never been married before, and so I thought when you got your marriage license, you were married. And so we like celebrated, we had a really fun night.
I just got married.
You did?
I'm a husband.
And what do we need to know?
And we're gonna go for a nice dinner.
Our first dinner as a married couple.
Dinner as a married.
And I was like, awesome, we're married. This is so cool. It feels so great. But then later we came to our lawyer and he's like, where's your marriage? Where's your certificate of marriage? And we're like, oh, doesn't this piece of paperwork say that we're married? And he's like, no, you have to also get married either with the justice of the peace or with a pastor or something like that. So I was like devastated because here I thought that we were married this whole, you know, maybe like 3 weeks had passed, and I thought we were married this whole time, and it turns out we weren't married, and I was so upset. But rookie mistake, never been married before, and it was totally a mistake. We got officially married. Again, no big deal because we just wanted to get the paperwork going. So that was just with a pastor and then 2 random witnesses I've never met before and never seen again. We were at a conference table and we did it there. But very unromantic, but we did it for the paperwork, knowing that in September of that same year of 2008, we would have a like full wedding at my parents' house, who graciously hosted us. It was a beautiful wedding. We had a great time. Of course, we put a little singing and dancing in there, and it was just a really relaxed backyard wedding. So fun, yet so beautiful, so touching also. Meant the world to us. And that is how we started our marriage. It was rough in the beginning. It was really rough in the beginning. Oh my gosh, I never thought that I would get a divorce from anybody, but in that first year and a half of marriage, I thought, this is gonna end in divorce many times. It's just funny to me because I do believe in marriage and I do believe in working it out, but it's so crazy. You get 2 people from completely different backgrounds, completely different cultures in our sake, and all of a sudden you throw them together and they're just supposed to work it out. No, that doesn't happen. And I think a lot of times that's maybe like a misconception that we have as a society, that things are just supposed to be happily ever after. They're not ever happily ever after, or so very rarely. If that's you, congratulations. But for us, our experience was not happily ever after. It was a struggle. It was such a struggle, especially initially learning how each other does life, how you keep the bathroom clean, how you think about certain things, and to add frustration on top of just that general frustration of first being married, he couldn't work legally in the US, so I was working and supporting us for like the first 3 months, and then he finally got a work permit, but then he got a work permit and he couldn't find work. So it was a really frustrating time for him. All in all, it took about 9 months for him to get his green card, and of course we began to work. We were super poor and we were struggling, and it was a really rough time, but so needed looking back on it. I feel you need to have that time of struggle in your marriage. Like, you need to understand where the other person's coming from. I love Chris because he really keeps me accountable for so many things. If I am acting in a way that I've always acted my whole life without thinking about it, he called me out on it, and he'd be like, why do you act this way? And I thought, you know what? I don't know why I act this way. It's really weird that I always respond in self-pity, or it's really weird that I would run away from an argument, because without even knowing it, that's what I was taught. And so being with him has really opened my eyes and made me do a lot of work on myself. And I know it's the same for him. Just coming from completely different backgrounds, completely different ways of handling a certain circumstance can lead to so many arguments and fights. But the good thing is it can really lead you to locate why you respond to different situations in the way that you do, and help you be aware, see when it's happening, and be like, okay, that is not a good way to respond, and I'm gonna change. So I really thank Chris for all of his help with me opening my eyes to becoming a better person. And I know he would say the same thing of me for himself. During this time, we found a marriage seminar by Chip Ingram, and that literally helped us communicate better. It really helped us work on saving our marriage. And I think when you're in a situation where you feel like your marriage is in trouble, you both really have to decide if you want to work on it to save it, because one person can't do all the work. It's such like a mutual thing you have to do together if you want to stay strong and you want to continue to grow together rather than growing apart. And so here we are almost 11 years later, and I want to say we have a great marriage. And it's not like it's just you fixed it once and now it's okay. I'm constantly struggling, and I feel like him too. We're struggling to always make a better marriage, and if one of us stops, then that's no good. We always have to strive at keeping our marriage good. And so that is how we met. I love to think about how God does things in our lives. It's never the way we want, never in the timing that we want, never the person we think it should be through, and yet somehow it works out to our benefit, to the best benefit. Marrying Chris was one of the best things I've ever done in my life, and I'm so happy that I am his wife and he's my husband. He's my best friend. He's the person that I bounce everything off of. He's the person that I want to be with when I travel. He's the person that I want to be next to experience all the things in my life. And I'm so glad we met and so glad that we got married. And we often ask each other, like, if we didn't meet, what do you think you'd be doing right now with your life? And it's really funny to think of where we could be, and all the things that have happened since we've been married have been such a blessing. The hard times, the lean times, the great times, the ups, the downs. I wouldn't want to do it with anybody else but him. I'm so thankful for him in my life, and I'm really, really honored to be called his wife. So that is the story how we met. I hope that you enjoyed this story. I think it's really fun, and a great thing to bring light to is happy, positive marriages, especially in a time when so many people are having struggles and divorcing and all of that. And if you're struggling in your marriage, don't lose heart. It's hard. It's hard for everybody. It's not an easy thing to be married. Check out the information that I put in the description. It might help you too. Thank you so much for watching. It's my honor to show up here every week and connect with like-minded people wanting to take their life to new levels of health and happiness. If you like what you saw, I encourage you to head over to veganmichele.com for more information and recipes. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.